Good morning and welcome back to the Turtle Wins the Race Home-Based Business Podcast. My name is Kara Buntin. I've owned a home-based business since 1999, so that's what we talk about here. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, if you haven't seen the video where I talk about this garment, feel free to go find it on my channel because I'm wearing it proudly on the thumbnail. You'll be able to find it. What I wanted to talk about today is something that I see a lot, and I'm going to record this and post it like three or 4 weeks down the road. So if you're trying to figure out who I'm talking about, you won't be able to because this comes up all the time. It always has, and it always will. And it's when you get a bad review, or not even a bad review, just 4 stars or 3 stars, or a bad review, 2 or 1. And somebody posts something like, I just got this low review. I've never gotten anything but 5 stars and every customer has liked it. So this is not fair. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that every other customer has liked it. And, honestly, they might not have. It might just be that the people who didn't like it didn't leave you a review. And maybe everybody who did like it left you a review. And then the people that didn't like it didn't leave you a review, but they're sitting at their house fuming because they didn't like it. You never know. Okay, but this is a comment that I see a lot, and I actually wrote this down. I've only had 5-star reviews on that in the past. No one has ever complained about it. Well, that doesn't make you immune. You have to understand that it doesn't make you immune from getting a low review on something for whatever reason, okay? And I think that if you own a business, you have to realize that you're not going to please everyone. And that's okay. You just have to handle it when it comes up, or don't. Sometimes I get a low review and it's the first thing I've heard of it from the customer. And I think that their comment is rude, or I think that their comment is, unfounded, or it's not valid. And I just respond to the review and I move on. And I know that it's the bad reviews that you remember. And I know that it's the bad reviews that really bother you. But if you're someone who is really, really, really obsessed with only having 5-star reviews, it's not a good attitude to take. And there are studies that show that people don't believe it when people only have 5-star reviews. They think that something is fake about that. Because generally people know that you can't please everyone. So if you come across a shop that only has 5-star reviews, you look at that with a little bit of suspicion and you think, okay, what's going on here? And sometimes people just skip that shop and they go to someone who has 4.8. So don't be so obsessed with having 5 stars that it really bothers you when you get a 4-star review. A 4-star review is a good review. It just means that there was something about the experience or the product that wasn't exactly perfect in their mind. And some people will think it's perfect, but they don't leave 5-star reviews just on principle. And that's their thing. That's up to them. And I think part of the problem is that Etsy has pounded into our heads that 5-star review is the only good review, and anything lower than that is going to drop your rating, and then you're going to lose star seller, and oh wow, oh, I'm terrified. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so just back off on only expecting 5-star reviews. Do you like everything? Have you gone places and had a bad experience? Have you bought something and not been happy with it 100%? It happens. Everybody has this experience. Nobody gives 5-star reviews and is pleased with everything in their lives and in the world. So just relax. You have to relax about that. Okay, but the thing that I really am focusing on for this is the idea that just because you've gotten only good reviews for something, it means that you should be insulated from anything bad or even less than perfect down the road with this product. Sometimes things happen. Okay, sometimes you're not doing your best work. Sometimes it's not exactly what someone expected based on the description. Sometimes they didn't read the description because it's too hard to find. There are a lot of things that can happen that make people not super happy with a product, and they come and give you a 3-star review. I had one recently where someone said something like, I wish that I expected something brighter. I'm like, well, the picture is there, but I don't know what is on her computer screen. So if someone down the road is buying something from me and it looks different on their computer screen, I can't apologize for that. It is what it is. And that's why when people say, can you match this color? I always say, no, I don't guarantee matching anything because I don't know what it looks like on your screen. It could look different on mine. And then I put it on my screen and print it and it looks different coming out of the printer than it does on the screen. So no, I don't match colors. And people, I think people know that. But she said, I expected something brighter. And she gave me, I think it was 3 stars. And I just wrote, thanks for the review. I can't guarantee that I see the same thing that you see. And so there's that. And I've actually written this down, okay, because this is, it's not new. And I see this comment, I only got, why did they give me a bad review? Everybody else liked it. It doesn't matter, okay? The one point that you need to remember is that there is a human on the other end of every transaction, okay? People are not robots. You're not going to get the same reviews every single time. People aren't going to have the same experience every single time. And just because you've gotten everything good in the past doesn't insulate you from the future. The idea that you're only as good as your last whatever, it does not apply here because you're only as good as that thing. It doesn't matter. Those last things don't matter. It doesn't matter. If I'm receiving something in the mail and it's broken or it's a different color than what I thought it was going to be, I don't care if everybody else who rated this had a great experience and was super happy. I'm looking at the thing that I got. So it's not that you're only as good as all your past reviews. You're only as good as that one item that person is holding in their hands. And that is a human holding it. We're not robots. We're not programmed to just read the description and expect exactly that. Because like I said, most people don't read the description, but also people will read a description and then they still imagine something different in their heads. And this is very common. It's happened when I was doing wedding cakes. You know, I had one girl, she was a dandy. I delivered the cake, exactly what she ordered. And she sent me a thank you note, like a thank you note came in the mail. It was beautiful. I'm like, great. And then about 2 weeks later, she called and said, I want to hear your side of the story about this cake. And I'm like, what side of the story? And I remember that phrase because it was so weird. What's your side of the story? I'm like, okay. And I said, I'm not sure what you mean. And I went and got the contract. I'm looking at it. And I said, well, that's what I delivered. And she said, well, it wasn't what I expected. And I said, well, it was what you ordered. It's what you ordered. And I said, and you sent me a thank you note. And she said, well, I wrote those ahead of time and sent them out. And I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. But if you're going to complain about something, don't do that, number one. But I didn't know there was a problem. But the problem was in her head because she got exactly what she ordered. I did sketches. You know, when I did wedding cakes, I did sketches of things. I wrote out specifically what things were going to be. And she said, I had a side. I'm like, there is no side of the story. My side of the story is that you got what you ordered. But she was expecting something different because in her head, and this was very common, in your head you imagine something different. And then when you get the real thing and you go check the description, you're like, oh, that is what I ordered. A lot of people don't check the description. They just say, well, that's not what I expected. So you have to understand there's a human on the other end of the transaction. You can't expect to get 5-star reviews based on your past because you're only as good as that transaction, not your past transactions, that transaction. And sometimes it's your fault. Okay. I will broach this subject because a lot of times when people say, and I'm thinking back to cakes now, but this probably happens with online, handmade business too, because if you're making something, if you're doing something, you're making something yourself, you can make a mistake. All right. It's not going to look exactly the same as the first 10 that you made. It could be slightly different than the picture. It could be for whatever reason. Right. And sometimes like what I'll do, if I see that something prints out and I'm like, that's a little too green or it's a little too red, it's not blue enough, I'll go ahead and reprint it because if I notice that, then that's not my best work. So if I'm looking at something saying, I don't know, then I don't send it. I will go ahead and print it and I can keep those things. There's usually nothing wrong with them. I have a whole stack of stuff over here that is just a little off in my opinion. If I sent it to the customer, they probably wouldn't even notice. But I'm looking at it saying, I don't know. If I have to second guess myself, I just don't send it. So you need to make sure that what you're sending is your best work. And then you can complain if somebody says this sucked and you know that it didn't, right? But a lot of times people on wedding cake forums would say, oh, I delivered this cake and the customer's complaining about it. And after, 5 or 6 back and forths with people asking them questions, what's the problem? Was it this? She would say, well, I know it wasn't my best work. Okay, if you deliver something that was not your best work and you know that, then it is probably your fault. So that might be just a legitimate complaint on the customer's part. Maybe you do deserve 3 stars. Maybe you do deserve 2 stars. But you have to remember that's a human. So you can't try to pass things off on people. And that's not always the case in this kind of situation because, like I said, some people just don't give 5-star reviews. But sometimes it wasn't your best work and you sent it anyway. So if that's not the situation, you can just ignore that one point. And if you're getting mad at me because you think that I'm not talking about one specific person. There are a lot of people who do this. And everybody's going to kind of feel this at some point. You're going to be like, oh, that's not a fair review. It's not a fair review. And the one thing that I see a lot of people say is have Etsy take it down, report the review because it's 4 stars. I'm like, come on. If somebody writes a review that reviews the entire transaction, and that is from the point of purchasing it to the point of receiving it and then examining the box to see what you got. Everything in between is fair game for the review. So if you take 3 days to respond to someone and they say in the review, the person didn't respond quickly, that's probably true. Okay. If you responded after half an hour and they say that, then that's probably not true. But it doesn't matter because that's their opinion and they can write that in a review. I think the only time Etsy can legally, because there are laws about removing reviews on websites so that everything looks great. You can't take down bad reviews on websites unless it's a really specific reason. And the Federal Trade Commission has laws about, messing with reviews and moving them around. So Etsy is kind of limited in what they can remove. They do remove reviews that say things about Etsy specifically. And also if the review is based on, not if it mentions, if it is based on a third party, like the post office lost your package and they give you a bad review and say in the review, the post office lost the package. So they're essentially reviewing a different service. Etsy can remove those. Whether they do or not is up to the person who decides that. And that is decided by a person. And it's decided within the parameters of whether they can legally remove that review or not. Because like I said, they're not allowed to remove reviews unless there's a really good reason, because that is manipulating reviews and that's against the laws. Okay. What you need to understand if you are running a business, like I said, is that you will not get good reviews all the time. Things happen. You get a crabby customer. It's not your best work, whatever the reason is. And reputation is a fragile thing. Okay, your reputation is fragile. And if you know where that comes from, leave it in the comments for extra points. Okay, but reputation is a fragile thing, and you can blow your reputation by responding to a review in a rude way or just by being super defensive. So if you do get a bad review, and it might not even be bad, it could be 4 stars. But I've seen people go in and just attack the person that left them a 4-star review because it's not 5 stars. And that's really stupid. It's just dumb. It's a dumb thing to do. And that will make your reputation with future customers who come and see your response. They're not going to buy from you. Because if they see that, they're like, I don't want to get into that. This person left a 4-star review and they didn't really say anything. I mean, sometimes people get really mad at these reviews and they post them in the group, in my Facebook group. And I go look at it and it's like, there's nothing offensive about this review. It's just that person's opinion and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you didn't like it, but there's nothing wrong with it. And if you go in there and attack them, then that says more about you than it does about them. And people see that. The reason that you respond to reviews, number one, is to lock it in so they can't come back and drop the star rating. Okay. But it's for the customers that come behind them. So if there was a problem, you can respond and say, this is what happened, and be professional. Don't attack the person for saying that. But it's not something that you're going to be immune from just because you've gotten all good reviews up to that point. You're going to get a bad review sometimes, and just get rid of the idea that because you've only had good reviews about something that you're never going to get a bad review for it. It's not realistic. It has nothing to do, the reviews that you get today have nothing to do with the reviews that you got yesterday or 900 days before that. They're completely separate. You're only as good as the package that you sent today, and you're only as good as the package that you sent today that they're opening in 3 days or 4 days. Okay. So leave me any questions, and I will talk to you later.